talk all things Brit. All right. Hello, everyone. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on what part of the world you're in. I hope you are wonderful this beautiful, beautiful June morning in Austin, Texas. Thank you for joining us once again as we explore real estate markets all over the world. Our mission is to educate you on real estate possibilities outside of your own city. And there are many. Now, most of us dream about living or working or living and working elsewhere, about retiring somewhere else. Some people dream and some people do. And we are here to help you do, to help you realize that your dream is achievable. Now, we know from visiting with real estate brokers or contacts all over the country, all over the world, that we're experiencing a surge of relocation activity as people realize we're able to live and work anywhere. And a significant portion at KW, a portion of our sales, are indeed outside of the buyer's primary market. Demand is changing the landscape throughout the world. As cities have come in and out of lockdown, we've seen subsequent increase in people thinking about relocating and considering which city they see themselves in their future. Naturally, we're also seeing a lot of pent-up demand being built up and then now released in tandem with lockdowns. This trend is heightened recently, but it's not a new trend. The lure of coastal holiday homes or rural retreats or a crash pad in the city has really led to a 50% increase in the last 20 years in the amount of money, the amount of wealth that is owned in secondary properties. More than 1 in 10 of us own a second home. But there's a lot to consider before buying. So we are here to look at everything from pricing to mortgage options, to the costs involved, to taxes, and how to possibly monetize this purchase when you're not using it. So whether it's a permanent move or perhaps a vacation home or part-time investment, we are here to broaden your mind. And we have been doing that by highlighting property offerings of Keller Williams' 850 U.S. offices and agents nationally in our 51 global regions. So for today, don your wellies, sit back and imagine colorful patchwork fields, gently rolling hills, deep green forests, and soft blue seascapes. Then grab a cup for your afternoon tea and a literary work by the Bronte sisters, because we are off to the UK. And while we're not Downton Abbey, we promise to educate you on the offerings in England. So whether it's the energy of London streets, the woodlands and the fields, or up the mountains or the beaches, the UK has got it. So let's introduce our generous and esteemed experts from the world of the Michelin star restaurants, West End shows, Hackney carriages, which are cabs in London for all of you Americans. Let us welcome, Russell Quirk. And I believe, Russell, you are the director of the office there, the Market Center. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm an investor. I'm a co-owner of the Market Centre in Essex, yes.
And are you a former leadership, a parliamentary leader or official in some way, I hear?
I have been elected, believe it or not. In fact, not just once, but twice in my
Wow.
Yes, I've been an elected member of my local council. I sat on a planning and development control committee, and I've been a real estate agent now for 25 years.
Wow.
We are honored. Grey hair and the wrinkles.
I don't think we've had a politician join us yet, so this is a first. Thank you so much for your time. You're from Essex, Northeast County of London, with its honey-colored stone and thatched roofs. Mr. Peter Garland is here. Thank you, Peter. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what makes you awesome.
Hi, Jeanette. Lovely to be here and speak to you all. Yeah, I'm in Essex, probably one of England's largest counties, as you said, northeast of London, very commutable. into the city. But we have a wide variety of towns, over 50 towns in Essex alone. So we cover a whole broad spectrum. I kind of specialise in more the quintessential detached home, as you mentioned and described. So that's kind of my sort of field of expertise in and around the little villages in Essex around Brentwood.
Beautiful. Well, I have taken a drive through there, so I can attest it is quite quaint. Okay, and with its bright and colorful window boxes adorning high village streets, cozy pubs, and tea shops, we have Gavin Perrett from the Midlands and the North. Tell us about you, Gavin.
Hi, Jeanette, and I just want to say thank you for that wonderful introduction to the UK and Essex, and just such a lovely way that you've introduced our fabulous country. And I'm actually based in Essex myself, but my area of expertise is the Midlands and the north of England. I'm actually from Brentwood, so the properties that Peter and Russell are going to be showcasing later on are the properties that many of my peers whilst we were growing up aspired to own properties such as the ones that they're going to be presenting. So I'm very proud to be from Brentwood and an Essex business owner, but I'm more equally proud to have a grasp of the property market that spans from Birmingham and Leicester up to Leeds and Newcastle, and spanning across to Manchester and Liverpool and everything else that's in between.
Wow, that sounds wonderful. Now, which one of you covers Yorkshire?
That's me.
Well, I have a Yorkie Poo fur baby, so we're going to get along just fine. And she might even make an appearance later because she heard we were coming to the UK. So it's like her homeland. But moving on to more important things. So our format today, for those of you who are new, is we're going to have some Q&A with each of these esteemed experts. And then at the end, we're going to share properties in their respective areas. So audience, if I can just ask you, if you're joining us or watching later, can you please tag anybody that you think might have an interest in this subject? Not only can they join us now, but they'll be able to hear about upcoming focuses in the next few months. We've got wonderful countries that we're going to be visiting, so we would love to have our audience broadened. And also, please be prepared to take note, because at the end, we are going to share the contact information for these gentlemen and any future business that you might want to either refer to them or purchase yourself. They are the resource for you. They are our experts. So let's get going. And let me just ask you, Gavin, could you tell us what is really the attractor for foreign buyers in the UK? And what are you seeing? Why are they coming?
Okay, that's a really good question. The first thing I'll say is that sometimes exchange rate can be a really, really strong reason why people invest in the UK. But actually, it's about property cycles. And without being too technical, the one reliable factor of the UK property market is the fact that it has its ups and downs. And if you can become familiar with the cycle, it's what we call the 18-year property cycle, 14 years of boom and 4 years of bust. Then you can start to understand patterns, and not every country benefits from an 18-year property cycle. So in places like France, my business partner bought a lovely property in France 20 years ago, and it's worth exactly the same amount of money now that it was then. And that can be very, very stabilizing for people that live there, and if you're used to it, then that's absolutely great. But the great thing about the UK is you can step into the property cycle at a time that's right for you, depending upon the part of the country that you're inclined to invest in. So if you're looking to, my area of expertise is purely investment. I don't deal in any residential or holiday home sales whatsoever. So when I'm talking to an investor, to a client, it's purely from an investment perspective. And what I can do is I can help a client to pinpoint, given their budget, where the best place right now is good for them. And the UK affords great opportunities for that.
Well, speaking of timing, the Knight Frank Prime International Residential Index, it's also known as the PURI 100 for 2020. It's a wonderful tool if people aren't aware of it. But it investigates key trends that shape the global property markets, and it lists the UK as an annual percentage change for 2020 down 4.3%, and a lot of markets, were in Europe. But the important thing is the prediction for 2021 is above the annual change, the annual average rather. There's predicted to be a rise of 3%. So that's a 7.3% margin, which spells opportunity. So that speaks directly to what you were referring to. Timing is everything. So there's a huge opportunity to be purchasing in the UK to experience that gain. Peter, can you tell me who your buyers tend to be that are foreign?
Yes, certainly. I mean, with Essex, we tend to have a lot of commuters that commute into London. And one thing that we've sort of seen, certainly over the last sort of 18 months with the whole pandemic, is a big shift of buyers wanting to kind of move away from London and come out further, where it's greener, it's nicer, they've got more space. And a lot of them obviously have now realised they don't need to work in the office in the city, and they can work from home. So they want a much better environment to be able to do that. So a lot of our buyers that we're seeing, and certainly over the sort of last 12 months, are people that traditionally would have bought in London. They've maybe come from Europe or the US or the Middle East to work in the UK or set up businesses. And now they're spreading their wings. They're coming further out. They get much more for their money and what they feel more value, because obviously they have a better quality of property and area around them.
We're seeing the same thing, or we saw the same thing in the US and big cities. Well, even in Austin, we've got a kind of an infant in terms of age downtown high-rise area. Really, it's just been there for the last 20 years. But that market was very sluggish. A lot of people moved out. A lot of renters moved out of there and bought 30 minutes outside of the city. So just a complete change in lifestyle for them, obviously sparked by COVID. So there are some consistencies from market to market and continent to continent, apparently. Russell, I've got a question for you. It showed that, I think in that Knight Frank report as well, that Americans are maybe like fourth or third or fourth. It kind of fluctuates in buying in London. But they were thinking that with the combination of the dollar and maybe some discounted pricing, that Americans might jump a little bit higher, but probably lag behind the Chinese. What is your kind of take on what we call the market of the moment? Like, what is actually the snapshot? What's actually happening right now in terms of your buyers, who they are?
So the UK market is very, very split. In fact, I'd go as far as to say, and I'm sure your market's the same, that there's no such thing as a UK property market. It's very, very fragmented. So when you look at here we have various indexes around price and price growth. So we have 2 each month from big lenders, so the Halifax and the Nationwide. Then we have government statistics. So obviously we don't have an MLS, but we have the government that very kindly records every transaction and every type of property and every sale price. So that's kind of really nice data for us. And consistently over the last 12 months, fueled by a lot of government intervention. So we've had a moratorium almost on tax up to £500,000 on property purchase. So what we call stamp duty here, that's been alleviated. So we've had relief for the last 12 months or so on that. And that here has sent the market into absolute overdrive. So we've had across the UK, so this isn't just prime, this is generically across the country, price increases year on year now. We're up about 9.5%. But there are some parts of the UK, so particularly the north, which normally actually lags behind the south and London, where parts of the north are actually up 13, 14, 15%. So totally unsustainable double-digit growth. What we've actually seen in the last few weeks, though, is as the kind of the COVID furor, if you like, has started to dissipate a little bit, and obviously we've got a very successful vaccine program here in the UK, so confidence is restored to a great extent. What we're now seeing is that London and the South East are starting to push back up again. So the market, the traditional London market, as foreign buyers are starting to think about returning, confidence has returned. The market here in London and the South East started to return. So it's very fragmented, very changeable, and pretty hard to keep up with, to be honest. But the stamp duty holiday that I mentioned finishes in 6 days' time, although it tapers. So there's an element of holiday until the end of September. So what we are going to see here in the UK is this oddity where we've got transactions are up about 50% in the UK year on year. So huge uplift in demand.
That
what
is
we'll
big.
now see, I'm afraid, the next 3 or 4 months is where a lot of buyers and sellers have pulled their decision forward to take advantage of the stamp duty holiday. We probably will see a dilution of transactions in the coming few months. But then I think that's a good opportunity for some people to come and buy, because I think sellers will be a bit keener to discount.
Yes. Well, if you're not already connecting with any real estate partners that you have in New York City, you should, because everything that you said is exactly their timeline. It's exactly what they're experiencing as well. Okay, Gavin, as an American or Canadian citizen, which is most of our audience, can I purchase easily in the UK?
Yes, you can. Like with everything, my advice is to treat when you buy property in the UK as an investment, treat it like a business transaction. And if you adopt that mindset, then you can't go far wrong. So what I mean by that is to have all of your ducks in a row, be prepared in advance, and understand what you can and can't do. I can put any investor in touch with any of my team, whether that be a property tax specialist or a property attorney, so that they know, or a mortgage broker that specialises in helping foreign nationals to buy property with mortgages in the UK. And we can have meetings with all of those professionals in advance, so that you can find out exactly what you can and can't achieve. And that therefore avoids disappointment. And then, everyone has a budget, whatever that might be. And our job is to help the investor to work out how that budget can be perhaps diversified, potentially by using mortgage finance, to purchase more than one property. So absolutely, it is possible. But to get the best experience, my recommendation would be to organise. I would organise a series of Zoom meetings, so that investor is fully apprised of their options from the outset.
Peter, can you talk to us a little bit about financing? How difficult is it as a foreigner, and a little bit about the process?
To be fair, it's kind of really touching on what Gavin's just said, really. We deal with a wide range of mortgage brokers that suit all different needs and requirements, including people buying from overseas. So really, we're slightly different here in the UK, whereas, we look after, a wider range of people. So, we have the experts that look after those people for whatever it may well be, as Gavin said, whether it's an attorney, whether it's a mortgage broker, and everything is possible if you're talking to the right person, and they're dealing with your circumstance.
Do you have what we might describe as a 30-year mortgage program, obviously basic costs down payments, and there's a process for that approval and bringing in the funds?
Yeah, sure. With regards to mortgages in the UK, generally, there are 2 different types. One is where you pay part of the mortgage off as well as the interest as you go along. And the other is interest only, which is generally for investments and sort of buy-to-let properties. So you don't actually pay any of the actual amount of the property, but you actually pay off all the interest. And at the end of the term, whether that's 10, 15, 20 years, whatever suits the circumstance, you then end up having to pay the amount of the mortgage.
Okay. All right. Russell, tell me, if one were to purchase a property for investment or end use, what are the costs to carry it? like how are the taxes figured? And I'm assuming you have property management companies so that if I wasn't using it all the time, it could be rented out.
Yeah, so there's really two tenures of property. So there's freehold and leasehold. Leasehold tend to be apartments, whereas freeholds tend to be houses. The leasehold dynamic really is kind of predicated around small amounts of ground rent payable on an annual basis, but kind of a peppercorn amount, generally, let's say £100 per property per year. But then, yes, some management costs around communal areas, insurances, and so on. So it's so there's kind of a split, I suppose, between the two tenures. We don't have we have a thing that we call council tax, which is it's a terrible name really, but it's effectively a property tax based on the value of the property. Albeit I have to say that those values haven't been reassessed since 1991, would you believe? So there's an annual tax which is actually discounted if you're not in occupation for the first 6 months. So if your property is empty, it's discounted. We don't have a property tax as such. That tends to be paid at the beginning of the transaction. So what I was talking about just now around what we call stamp duty, that tends to be paid at various increasing percentages based on the threshold value of the property. So the top tier now, at the very top of the market, is 17%. So you'll pay a 12% stamp duty tax above £1.5 million. Plus, on top of that, if it's your second home or an investment home, you pay a surcharge in addition of 3%. And if you're a foreign buyer, I'm afraid to say to the audience here, you also now, as of 2 months ago in the UK, pay an additional 2% surcharge. So it's very, very penal indeed. Having said that, at the bottom end of the market, so our average UK house price is about £250,000. That barely attracts tax. So it really is designed to kind of I'm going to choose a polite word rather than the word that I would like to use, but it's designed to let's just say tax higher end purchasers, those that can afford it, more than ordinary buyers. But in terms of carry cost, there's nothing else really apart from council tax and the initial costs that should trouble somebody in terms of an investment purchase. We have, like you do here, so we have a couple of ways of maximizing your asset if it's empty or if you're choosing to rent it out. You can either rent it out on a kind of fairly long-term basis, so year by year, on what they call an assured short-hold tenancy agreement. But more and more now, short lets, so the likes of Airbnb and others, are becoming very, very popular because the yield, so the amount per day, week, night, whatever, is of course much, much higher. And of course, if you can get around void periods, then that can be very, very lucrative compared to just a standard let. So exactly the same as I'm sure it is in the US.
So for clarity, that those taxes are paid once at the beginning?
So the stamp duty is paid once on purchase, so it's paid by the purchaser, and then you pay council tax, which at the top end may be a maximum of £3,000 per annum. At the bottom end, maybe £300 or £400 a year, depending on the value of the home. And that gets paid to our local town council, where they're supposed to do things with it, like collecting the rubbish and running the town hall. But let's not get into the politics. But that is done with varying efficiencies across the spectrum of the UK, as you can imagine.
Okay, thank you for that clarity. And Gavin, citizenship, is there any benefit to having this related to buying property or taxes, or does it not matter?
First of all, I'd just like to compliment Russell on how diplomatic he was. So you can tell that he's worked in politics before, but that was very, very, very diplomatic. So with regards to citizenship, the only benefits I can think of really are because why this is pertinent is I recently helped a couple in San Diego buy a 2-bedroom freehold house in Boston, in Lincolnshire, not Massachusetts, I hasten to add. And they're both expats, so they still had a presence in the UK. They still had UK bank accounts, and as a result of that, it was easier for them to get the mortgage that they needed to transact. So if any of your the people watching today have a British citizenship or the potential to obtain British citizenship through marriage or through any other means like that, then it can certainly help from a lending perspective. But if you're buying for cash, it doesn't really make any difference whatsoever. But again, my caveat to that is I would speak to a property tax specialist at the front end of the conversation before you buy a property to get total clarity and just to understand how to navigate your property investment journey. You know, should you be buying it as a sole trader, as an individual? Do we need to set up some form of company to trade the business through? And just by having a consultation with an expert, you'll be able to find out the best answers to that. But there's no real barrier to answer your question, Jeanette.
Perfect. That means we could buy right now, right? How long does the process take, Peter, once you identify a property, generally, like on average?
Depending whether you're buying, if you're buying a packaged investment that like what Gavin has, then that can happen very quickly. If you're buying a residential property, like what I have, that might take anywhere between 8 to 12 weeks. Our process is obviously very different to yours in that the closing date is not a fixed date in time, it's more of a goal, whereas obviously with you guys things are slightly different. So, you know, and we're unfortunately, we're led really by sort of solicitors and how quickly they can get things done. And as Russell said, with the stamp duty holiday that we've just experienced, they've struggled, to say the least, and be diplomatic. But yeah, I mean, it's as good as a solicitor is. You know, once we've done our part, you know, we chase the sale, we progress the sale as much as we can. But really, we are in the hands of good solicitors.
Well, it is a little different than our process here in the US. And one thing I love is that you all are termed estate agents. Is that right?
Yes.
Estate. I like that.
And estates in the country, you see.
Okay. Well, I think that sounds better. I don't know why. I like that. Okay, let's hop over to the fun stuff. Seeing some properties. That is always a big highlight of our time. So let's see, I forgot who's going first. We will know here in just a second. Okay, it is Peter. Oh my gosh, this is so cute. Tell us everything we need to know.
Isn't it wonderful? I mean, if you want the quintessential English detached house in a village, then this is it. It really, it's in an area called Thaden Boyce, which is surrounded by Epping Forest, which is one of the largest forests in the whole of the UK. It boasts a 140-acre deer sanctuary. The village itself, the property is just off the village green on a private road. And the village is one of the very few in the UK that still doesn't have streetlights, and they won't have them. They want to keep the traditions of old, and keep it as village feel as possible. Hence, that draws a rather good audience to any properties that are available, and they are high in demand. Location-wise, you are on the London Underground network, which means you can quite easily jump on the Underground, get into London without too much bother. And this type of property obviously attracts people that you know want that space that we sort of discussed earlier, but also want the ability to be able to commute into London, and you know do stuff at the weekends, like take the dog for a walk in an amazing forest.
It looks like a really large plot of land. Is that typical in this area?
Yeah, I would say for a detached house, I mean, it's 5 double bedrooms. You've got 3,103 square foot of internal living area. It actually backs on to, in the UK, one of our sports is cricket, which I'm not sure how familiar the audience over there is with, but it backs on to the village cricket green. which you can imagine on a Sunday, people sitting on deck chairs watching the local village cricket team. So, you know, it's whilst the land provided with this property isn't as vast as some of my others, it actually has the benefit of you opening the gate from your back garden onto the village cricket green. And what more could someone want on a Sunday afternoon?
So you can have the use of it and enjoyment, but not
have to look after it.
yeah, not have to look after it. That's even better. That's lovely. That's exactly what I would have in my mind if I were thinking about.
It really is, honestly, it is the picture that you have in your head that this is that house.
In large, a good size. You know, I think so many times we think of European living as being tight, you know, almost equivalent to like New York City kind of sizing, just smaller square footage. But this is a generously sized home, 5 bedrooms. That's lovely. That's a great way to start. Thank you, Peter. What is next for us? Let's see. Okay. Also in Essex. Well, this is an estate, I would say, right?
This is exactly that. It's more of a, you might be familiar with a compound. I mean, it's really a compound. It's about 4 different properties all in one. It needs complete refurbishment, so it's a fixer-upper. And the images that we provided are virtual imaging that we do for a lot of our clients where their properties do need refurbishment, to show the audience, you know, what you could achieve. And this one, I mean, you've got over half an acre of land. You've got over 6,000 square feet of internal living area, and that's made up of a main house, which is a 6-bedroom house with 4 bathrooms, but also an attached annex, which has got a further 2 bedrooms, a studio, and a 400-year-old barn at the front, which they've used in the past as an entertaining area and a bar, but again could be quite easily converted into something. And it's not listed in the UK. And a lot of properties that are older and tend to be listed, which means there's a lot of protection rights on what you can do with the property. But this barn, despite it being 400 years old, is not protected, which means you can get quite funky with what you want to do with it.
And so tell me about this area. Like what in the surrounding the village, what's that experience going to be?
Yeah, well, it's very close. It's about a mile. I mean, this is classed as sort of semi-rural, but it's about a mile away from Blackmore. And in 2020, Blackmore was one of the villages that was highlighted by the London press as a commuter spot to watch, that could rival the picturesque villages of Surrey, which are a lot more expensive in value, should we say, for the type of property that you would get in Surrey. So yeah, it's definitely been, it's about 4 miles from Shenfield Station, and that is going to be the end terminus of Crossrail. Crossrail is a link that will take passengers from the east in Essex all the way through London, past Heathrow and out to the west, terminating in Reading. It's a train, it's a transport link that the government have commissioned many years ago. It's now almost completed, and that will obviously add incredible value to properties in and around that area, because it'll be a lot faster to get into London and to get out to the west, and even Heathrow to the airport.
If you were driving to London, how long would it take to get
Probably
there?
about an hour. About an hour.
Okay.
Yeah, a train, 35 minutes. You're in London. But if you're driving, depending whether you're driving in rush hour, but yeah, generally about an hour into London.
You have such amazing public transportation. I really envy that. It's just so easy to get around on the tube. So wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing those 2 beautiful, really beautiful properties.
No problem.
Okay, and then also from Essex. Well, this is nice with this pond in under $2 million.
Yeah.
Tell me about this.
Yeah, 1.25. The house was remodeled about 18 months ago to add a double extension on the back to create this wonderful open plan living. Again, semi-rural location, a tiny village about 5 miles north of Brentwood. This isn't the type of property where you can just pop down the road to get a pint of milk. This is, it's a semi-rural location, but very private, hardwood, electric gates, about 3/4 of an acre of land, and remodeled for a modern family with lots of open plan living.
Nice. It feels, the two of the pictures don't feel as UK to me, the interior ones.
Yeah.
So they have done a good job at modernizing it.
Yeah,
Thank you so
the
much.
owner is a massive fan of Selling Sunset, of $1 million listing, and so they've kind of modeled it on homes over there, to be fair, but with the English touch. I like the pond and the land and everything else that you get with it, so it's kind of British from the outside and American from the in.
It's lovely. Thank you so much, Peter.
No problem.
Okay, thank you. Who is next? Let's see.
Me.
Russell, tell us about this enclave. What are we looking at? This is nice.
So this is a very unusual location. So Hutton Mount is known as being pretty high end. So it's for the well-heeled. So it's just outside of Brentwood, which obviously is a town that we've talked about in the session a few times. But Hutton Mount is all very big, very expensive homes. So the record here is about $6 million on this particular development. There's only 500 homes here. Everything is kind of 3,500 to 4,000 square feet and above. So Hutton Mount has a kind of kudos to it. It also happens to be just literally a few minutes walk to Shenfield rail station. Shenfield is one of those kind of semi-rural places that's a bit of an anomaly, because the train service, it's a bit like Connecticut and New York. So here I can walk from, because I have to live on Hutton Mount, I should tell you. So I can walk to Shenfield station in 5 minutes and be at my London office desk in 25 minutes. So I'm outside of London to the tune of 21, 22 miles, but I'm actually only 30 minutes away by train. So it's super commutable. So Hutton Mount is renowned for, a few sports stars, a few celebrities and so on, but mainly it's financial services millionaires. So it's city traders, insurance brokers and so on. And what's very rare is for a lot to come up for sale, because Hutton Mount's 100 years old. It's already, over that 100 years, been super developed. So every bungalow is now 2 homes. Every large back garden pretty much has been infilled with another home. But this I listed a few weeks ago. This rarity here is a lot of, as you can see, it's about 22,000 square feet as a lot. It will take a home of about 5,000 to 6,000 square feet, particularly if you include a basement. There's lots and lots of very similar homes nearby, actually, that have recently kind of been built and that have sold at anything between £3 and £4 million. So there's a significant opportunity here for someone that wants to be on Hutton Mount because of the convenience and because of the kudos, the glamour. But of course, you can literally draw your own home and have it built, which here it's super unusual. Having said that, I haven't sold it yet. So I'm pushing the uniqueness and the excitement.
Might come today. You never know.
Let's just say that the price needs to be there needs to be an element of negotiation, if I'm honest. But the owners are pretty flexible. So but yeah, so look, £2 million for the lot, but the home that you could build on that lot could be anything between £3 and £4 million finished and done.
And so you all have basements. Because we don't have basements in Texas, and I love I'm an East Coast girl, so I love a basement.
So they weren't a big. They were a big thing in the UK in older houses, so Victorian and Edwardian houses. Then they kind of faded out because they were so expensive. But in London now, particularly in parts of London where homes sell for kind of 2,000 to 2,500 square feet, it makes economic sense to build a basement in the home you already own, right? Because obviously it's going to cost you £500 a square foot to do it, so you're quids in, so to speak. But that trend for basements now has started to creep out to the shires, out to areas like this. So, the basement here would be quite comfortably 1,000, 1,200, maybe 1,500 square feet. And of course, that in itself, because Hutton Mount sells between £600 and £700 a square foot, means that you're adding a significant amount of money by taking the time and making the effort to have a basement.
Excellent. Okay. And moving along, we have let's just say 2 to 4 bedrooms. What does that mean? Are these like little condos?
Yes.
Okay.
If you look at the first slide or the first photo here, kind of in the distance towards the right hand side of that first picture, you'll see the house that was on this site. So this was a residential home of about 3,000 square feet. The client that owns it, the client of mine, has lived in it and also used it as an office for a period of time, and has spent a long time trying to get planning permission to tear down the building and to re-erect a brand new building of about 12,000 square feet of 10 luxury apartments. Our kind of permit system, our planning system here, particularly outside of London, is very, very protracted and problematic. So you end up with lots and lots of obstruction by the civil servants, the officers, that seem to have a default kind of no position. So I helped the owner of this particular development get planning permission. I'm now the sole selling agent for those 10 flats, which is great because the what we call the GDV here, the gross developable value, is about £7 million, so not far off $10 million. So obviously my commission on that will be, pretty nice. And actually they're going to be very similar to the Hutton Mount situation, the Hutton Mount story that I just recounted to you. These will be not just what we call standard flats, but proper luxury apartments. So the sort of thing that you would expect to see in New York, 1,000, 1,200, 1,500 square feet with terraces, high-end sanitary ware and kitchens and so on, kind of in the middle of Brentwood, very, very close to the commuter station that I mentioned just now, but also backing onto open space. So you can see here in one of the pictures, there's ancient woodland behind this particular site, which is lovely to look at, obviously, once you're in situ, and also literally 200 feet from one of the country's oldest public schools, Brentwood School, which is very, very well known for schooling people like Hardy Amis and Jack Straw, who was Home Secretary. So a very, very proper British school, almost opposite. So lots of things to get excited about for this particular development in this particular location.
Excellent. Okay. And then Central London. I'd love to see what you can get in the city. Tell us about this.
So I've sold this now. So this is under offer. So this is going through the conveyancing process now. I've included this as a kind of a fairly interesting example of something that is actually quite ordinary, and I can say that now I've sold it because I'm not selling it to any of your audience. It's not a big apartment. It's 800 square feet. The building is about 110, 120 years old. It's kind of pretty standard. It's over some commercial premises, as you can see, which sometimes can be problematic in terms of financing. But I still sold it for just under £1 million. So this property is sold for about £1,300 a square foot, because it's Marylebone. Now, Marylebone is a hop, a skip and a jump from Baker Street, which of course is very famous for Sherlock Holmes and Madame Tussauds and Regent's Park and so on. So it's bang in the centre of all that's fantastic and exciting about central London. But it's really expensive, and this actually for London, £1 million for a flat in central London is kind of bottom end. Marylebone at £1,200 a square foot, in comparison to Knightsbridge, Kensington, Belgravia, Mayfair, which are now anything between £2,000 and £2,500 a square foot. So, so yeah, ordinary flat. And then this will really annoy you. The person buying it is a 28-year-old French banker. 28 years old, £1 million. But good luck. Why not?
Yeah, it sounds a little bit about some of our buyers. Young and well funded, so good for them. I'm happy for them. Okay, Gavin, kind of wrap us up with your properties. Oh, Yorkshire. Wonderful. Tell us what we're seeing.
Yeah, thank you very much. So the good news is once your viewers have bought all of Peter's properties and all of Russell's land, then with their spare change, they can mop up with our properties in Yorkshire. And I deliberately selected 3 properties to show you today at the lower entry level, just to sort of demonstrate the scale of what can be achieved in the United Kingdom, which I think is a really healthy thing to do. And this property is in Rotherham in South Yorkshire. And the reason I've chosen all 3 properties are in Yorkshire. You mentioned Knight Frank earlier. I also use Savills as a signpost for capital appreciation. And the good news is that in the next 4 years, between now and 2025, Savills have forecast growth of 28.8% in Yorkshire between now and then. So that's only 4 years. So we're really, really excited by that. And this property falls within that area. So this is a 3-bedroom house with has 2 bathrooms, and it's available for £130,000. The good news is that this property is in immaculate condition. It's already tenanted, so whoever buys it doesn't even need to worry about finding a tenant, because there's a long-term tenant already in there who intends on staying. And the area is an excellent area. The type of people that would live here would be a young family, and they would benefit from the schools nearby, which have a very good ratings with Ofsted, who are the authority that rates schools. And it's commutable to Sheffield, Doncaster and Leeds. So you can get into any of those centres very, very easily and very quickly, making it very attractive for anyone to live there. What we tend to find is with a property like this, with a young family, the tenants will probably decide to stay there for a long time. There'll be less transient because having the right schools nearby is a really big attraction. So yeah, we're quite excited by this property, and yeah, we've actually got 3 of these available at the moment. We've sold 1, and we've got 2 remaining, and they're all identical.
And all leased out.
Pardon?
All right, all leased out already. All
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's just really nice. It's just really nice for an international investor to know that they can pick up a property as an investment, knowing that it'll start earning them money as soon as they complete on the property.
Perfect. Okay, let's see what's next. Here we go. Moorcroft Apartments.
This is a converted library in Rottington, just outside of Doncaster, and these are approximately 3 years old. And this is a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment, and it's available for £89,950. And again, there's a tenant in there already who's been there since day 1 and is very happy and is looking to stay there. And the reason that he's looking to stay there is because he's one of 2,000 employees of the local Amazon distribution centre, which is less than 1.5 miles away. So it's so important to when we're picking these properties to find a reason why people would want to live there and stay there for the long term. It's incredibly convenient for this tenant to be so close to his place of work. And again, Doncaster is a growing economy. It's a hot spot that's tipped to do great things. It falls within the Yorkshire 28.8% growth area. And you can also get to Sheffield really easily, and also the Robin Hood Airport, which is only a short drive away as well. So in terms of transport links, links to other cities, it's fantastic.
Wonderful. Amazon strikes again. They're everywhere.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then here we are, Courier House. This is lovely.
Yeah, this is a great development in right in Halifax town centre. So again, Halifax, like all of the areas I've just mentioned, can boast significant regeneration funding that's been sent from central government to local government. So it's all part of what we call the Northern Powerhouse, and the government are very motivated to inspire people to move out to other parts of the country rather than just being London-centric. And as a result of that, they distributed funds to help regenerate and invigorate places like Halifax to make them more attractive. And there's been significant regeneration already in Halifax. Again, this is a commuter territory. So many of the people here will be working in Halifax town centre, but you can get into Leeds city centre very easily. And if you look at the prices in Leeds, they've gone up significantly in the last few years. So people are now looking for less expensive places to live within a short train ride from the city centre, and Halifax fits the bill with that too. So this one's available for £70,000, so a mere stocking filler that you can use to mop up with your spare change.
Stocking filler, I love that. And it's fitting that we're closing in Yorkshire because, as promised, my Yorkie Poo is making her appearance. Being part Yorkie, she was hoping to see something from her homeland. So thank you, Gavin, for making my fur baby very, very happy. Well, thank you. That, you know what I loved about that is it was a wide variety of offerings. And I think that's what's so important. And let's go ahead and take here we go. We're going to put your information up so people can take notes or take screenshots. We'll leave that up for a couple minutes. But I think it's just so important to kind of pull away the myth of the UK being expensive because people are thinking only of London, and understanding you can buy a beautiful country home or just a well-heeled investment in the UK, and then maybe even use it when you want to visit. So I love seeing a variety. So everyone out there, please do write down Peter, Russell, and Gavin's information. I, for one, am dying for some fish and chips now, and a cup of tea. I'm all ready for the UK. And it's only a short flight away, so that's wonderful. But sadly, our time together is ending, so you'll have to hop on a plane if you want more. But history has revealed that England has been inhabited by, for over 800,000 years by Romans and Vikings and Anglo-Saxons. So why not you? So if you are a buyer viewing this today, know that all this is available and much, much more. The first step is to reach out to these experts. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, gentlemen, for sharing all of your wealth of knowledge. For the audience, again, my special request of you is that if you're enjoying this and learning from it, go ahead and tag your friends or clients. Put their information in our comments box so that they can see this at their leisure, or find us on YouTube, Spinelli Residential Group YouTube, for past episodes internationally. And we did some episodes in the US during COVID. We didn't want to tease people with foreign destinations when they couldn't even leave their home. That would have been just cruel. So we do have some US thrown in there for good measure. And if you're an agent or a viewer, key on to our Facebook page so that you can learn about foreign broadcasts, and share that with your family and with your friends. So again, thank you so much for everything, Gavin, Peter, and Russell. We value you so very much. Again, connect with us on Spinelli Residential Group. Next month, we'd love to have you join us because we are heading to the United Arab Emirates, known for luxury shopping and ultra-modern architecture and a quite lively nightlife scene. I can attest, I have been there. We will be in Dubai, and it is something to see. And yes, Keller Williams has offices there in that location and many, many more. We've got some really strong agents there, so I cannot wait to share all of that with you. So until next time, take care from the beautiful city of Austin, Texas. This is Jeanette Spinelli with the Spinelli Residential Group, your Austin consultant. Now go make it a powerful day. Stay healthy, and above all else, be kind. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye, guys. Thank you.